Well, hello. I'm John, and I wanted to start the series off as far as moving to Mexico, kind of the steps that you can take. These are just some things that I learned as our experience of moving out here. Um, it can be kind of intimidating from the very beginning. You know, the idea of for however long you've lived in whatever country you're coming from. For us, it was the U.S. So the idea of just packing some things, selling other things, and moving to a completely different country can be hugely intimidating. And it was for us. I mean, for me, I'd never lived anywhere other than in the United States. I was in the Army, so I moved around a lot, saw a lot of different places, so I was a little more daring. We were, my wife is Mexican, so I mean, and from the area, so that made it a little bit easier for us. We had family here. We had, she had lifelong friends, so it was a little easier for us, I would say, than the average couple. However, some of the steps or things that I'm talking about can kind of apply to any situation. Um, to kind of rewind a little bit to where, um, for me, it solidified it was a good idea for us to go. Was we had taken a vacation trip as I was recovering from some surgeries, and I'd taken just a time to kind of get my head right, get my body right for a couple of weeks, and we came down here in 2016 to Ajijic and stayed with some friends. Well, actually stayed at an Airbnb that later became friends. Really pretty place, and I'll probably put the link of their Airbnb. It was beautiful, beautiful spot, and it was me, my wife, our daughter Madai, and then my parents, and our friends Frenchie and Marie. And so it was a pretty big group, a group of 7 people, and we, came down in October. So if you're unaware of the weather patterns here, where we're at, around early June, sometimes mid June, to about October, the end of October, you'll have a rainy season, and the rainy season doesn't mean it's raining all the time. Rainy season means that basically in the night you'll have storms, you'll have thunderstorms, you'll have regular rainfall. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little. A couple years back, there was a lot of rain, Um, so, anyway, we fell in love with the place. I kind of digressed off into a different direction, but the reality is that we found this place, we loved it. We decided at that time that, hey, let's move there. Let's determine how we can make this happen, and that's what we did. One of the big steps is where to start. I mean, when you've got your house, you've got your household, you've been living in that place for a period of time, so you've accumulated stuff. You don't know what to do with it, and everybody's thinking, well, I would think about moving, but there's just so much things I would have to do, and it kind of discourages a lot of people from making the move. So what I recommend that you do is you take a vacation to just, pick 2 or 3 spots that you have heard about, that friends have told you about, or that you've seen on videos. Stay there for a minimum of a week. Any less than a week, you're not going to really be able to pull in or look around and kind of get comfortable with the area so that you can drive around. So you can drive around, find places, go to the restaurants, talk to different people that are already living there, and kind of see, hey, what do you think is a good spot in this area? What area do you recommend? When we came to Ajijic, we realized, that the cost of living in Ajijic was a little higher than, say, Chapala, much higher than where we live in Ixtlahuacan, rent-wise, utilities-wise, just the infrastructure. I mean, basically, at the lake, it's beautiful. I mean, Ajijic is a beautiful spot. There's a lot of nice areas, but just expect you're going to pay a little bit more for rent in Ajijic than you say you would if you were looking for another place outside of that. Chapala rent prices have gone up a little bit, but they are still, um, you can still get a really nice house for your money. Um, so that kind of leads into the second thing that's maybe a question mark for a lot of people. And I may be missing things. And if I'm missing something or a concern that you have, let's say you're in the process right now of trying to determine, hey, do we want to move out of our house, move to a different country? I mean, which kind of, as it comes out of my mouth, I can realize how daunting that can seem to say somebody that's done it. But I can tell you right now that it's doable. My parents made the move out here as well. Now my dad had, did the 2 careers, 2 retirements, that whole bit. Worked till he was able to collect Social Security payments, and they moved out here. He's had no problems traveling back. Well, obviously, other than the stuff concerning the pandemic, but he's had no problems getting around to different places in the U.S. after he's come here. We helped him get his permanent residency while he was here. He was thinking about trying to do that when he was in the States, but it just kind of became such a hassle. It was actually easier to get it done down here for them. But the next step, obviously, is you're there. Let's say you're trying to figure out how are you going to sell your stuff, or are you going to keep your stuff? I think that kind of goes back into the vacation. Take a vacation here. You can kind of see what's available at Walmart, what's available at the different places that you buy stuff. There's a lot of neat little bazaars, people that have come here and they've got stuff that they've brought with them, and then they just want to sell it because they're no longer using it. Furniture is a good example of that. Fans, little toaster ovens, things like that, things that you use in your kitchen. I would not, and we did not, I guess I can say that, I'll say this, is that we did not sell everything. What we did is we were downsizing from a pretty large house, and we moved the stuff that we wanted to keep. Picture frame, obviously the picture frames, but things that are important to us. We kept them in storage in San Diego for a while. That was expensive. I mean, it was $130 a month, which probably doesn't seem expensive to everybody that is watching this video, but for us it was a little expensive because I was no longer making my active duty pay with all the allowances. So for us it was a huge cut in the amount of money that was coming into the house, and so we needed somewhere cheap to stay. But we didn't want to just like throw the baby out with the bathwater as far as all of our stuff that we had bought for our home, dishes that we were particularly fond of, like a KitchenAid mixer. My wife didn't want to get rid of her KitchenAid mixer. I totally understood that, so we put it in storage. Eventually, we were able to make the contacts to have that stuff taken out of storage and brought down to us in Jalisco. It was a lot of coordination because we had talked to people, but the cost was so astronomical that it kind of seemed silly for us to go and pay $3,000 or $4,000. So what we did was we waited, we made some connections, we talked to people. We also had some friends and family up at Tijuana, and so they kind of helped us as well. So, but it was a thing that I'm glad that we did, because there were certain comforters, certain types of things that we had in our storage unit that I'm glad that we didn't get rid of. In hindsight, looking back, I know that for me it's a lot easier just to sell stuff or give it away. My wife is not like that. When she buys something, she spends time, energy, money to find the exact product or thing that she wants. She doesn't want to just give it away at a garage sale. And so I totally understand that mindset as well. But then again, there's also a lot of stuff here. So kind of weigh those things out. What stuff what stuff of yours do you absolutely want to keep? And if you want to keep it until you find the place that you're wanting to live outside of the country, in this case, Lajijic, Lake Chapala, any of those areas, once you find a house and you want to work those things out, you can always do it later. And you have that stuff in a climate controlled storage unit to be picked up and moved down here when you're ready. But you're not just throwing everything in a garage sale and selling it for pennies on the dollar. So you've kind of determined what stuff you want to keep, what stuff you want to sell at a garage sale, and now you've got your stuff in storage. And what's the next step? Well, now you've got to find a place to rent, buy, whatever you want to do. Obviously, some of that you can do fact finding while you're on vacation. We didn't do it like that. We kind of just jumped right on in. Sold everything, put it all in storage, and jumped in the car. All the pups, our aunties came with us to help us, and we just rolled down here. We had looked for a place through Craigslist, which I honestly it worked out for us, but I don't recommend it. There's so many more. There's local periodicals here. There's Facebook pages that you can look through for local community events, things for sale, things to swap, things like that. There's a lot of that on Facebook now. We looked at Craigslist, and we may have paid a little bit more per month when we first came down here, but that's to be expected. The other thing is that as somebody from outside of the country, there are certain hoops that need to be gone through if you're going to rent a place, and you're not. Let's say you're coming here and you're on a temporary, temporal visa, or you're here only for a specific amount of time. It can be a task to find a place or a person that will rent to you, because what they're concerned with is like you move in, you don't like it, and then you leave, even though they've got a 6-month contract. They really have no recourse to try and go after you. So what I've seen started happening, and this is something that I've noticed recently, is the fact that as we've been looking for a place, for my mom and dad, they'll want 2 months in advance. If you're going like through Century 21, or you're going through some of the larger companies in the Ajijic area for a rental, there's rentals. There are places to rent, but expect that you're going to pay 2 months rent and the last month's rent. If you're not, it's just it's one of those things. If you're going to go through one of those agencies, now after you've been here for a while, what I'd recommend is that you maybe sign a year contract, and in that year, use that year to look around. Well, one, to determine if the place that you're staying is what you like, is all the services that you need available. Is internet fast enough for you if you're still trying to kind of run an online business, or is the electricity consistent where you're staying at? Because during the rainy season, sometimes you have some situations where you'll lose power. It's very common, and so you can't come with the attitude that everything's on demand all the time, because it's a little different here, and you can figure that out during that first year contract. It may cost a little bit more up front, but as you're here and you're going to restaurants and you're doing events and you're meeting people, word of mouth, the local periodicals here in Ajijic, there's a pretty great magazine that's made by some folks that have lived here for quite a while, but it's called, I believe it's called El Ojo del Lago. I'll put a link to their webpage on the description as well. They're a pretty good source for events. They're a good source for houses for sale if you're coming with the intent to purchase a home. There's some classifieds in the back where people will sell cars. They're looking for help, or there's people offering services, in-home services like cleaning, things like that. So it's a great periodical, and it's free. It's basically, you go to any restaurant in the Ajijic area and you will find this publication. Great little publication, and it's well known, and a lot of the people use it for that purpose. But there's also Facebook. You can also get on the Facebook community pages. I'll see if I can find a couple that I've used throughout. Beg, Barter, and Exchange. I have to look on there, and I'll put some links to some Facebook pages if you use Facebook. But there's some really good resources out there if you're trying to kind of get an idea for what the rental market is prior to coming out here. So you've been out here for a year, you've been looking around, you've been eating, you've been buying things. You'll know what stuff that you need to bring from the U.S. or from Canada or from wherever you're coming from. The things that you need to make your home your home. So that's probably the best step. That's what we did. We ended up signing a year contract with the people that we found on Craigslist. We stayed here for a year. It was in Ixtlahuacan. We ended up staying in Ixtlahuacan just because I needed quiet, drink, some, tranquility. um, and I was still recovering from a lot of medical procedures. So I mean, there was I needed to be down. I needed to be able to close the windows, and so for me it was a perfect space to do that. And it just stuck. I mean, we like the people here. We love the people here. The culture here, the tradition here is beautiful. And I'm going to be doing some videos in the future kind of on that sort of thing, because it's one of the things that's very endearing to me about Mexico is just their recognizing and maintaining traditions. And I'll have some specific stories of some experiences that we've had, which will be for another video. And I don't want to get too far off the beaten path, but basically I just wanted to kind of point out some areas that you can look to get the process started. Obviously at home, garage sales, I mean, it's super easy to start kind of paring down some of your stuff, the things that you don't necessarily need, the excess stuff, the stuff that you want to keep, put it in storage until you found a place that you're going to be more permanent, or you determine, hey, you know what, Mexico's not for me, I'm going to move back to wherever you're coming from, and you'll still have that stuff in storage and you won't be starting over when you get back. So kind of use your first year as your litmus test. Is this going to work for me? Is this going to work for my wife? As a couple, are we, or whatever the situation may be, my partner, is this going to be a situation that we can live in, thrive in, and be happy? And for me and my wife, the answer was a resounding yes. I mean, we are content beyond measure. Beyond measure. I mean, our dollar goes a lot farther here. The climate obviously is unbeatable where we're at. I love rain. Coming from San Diego, it was so dry all the time, most of the time. And for us, the climate here is perfect. It's a great spot. Now we have a little time. We have a little extra money that we can take little weekend trips if we want to other parts of Mexico, or if we decide to go up and see the grandkids, we'll do that. So anyway, I hope that this helps. I hope I didn't ramble too much, but basically in each video I'm going to try and do no more than 15-20 minutes of basically kind of the steps that we took. And I wanted to start at the beginning, with this video. Was it scary? Yeah, it was scary for me. I mean, have I been to other countries in the world? Obviously. Yeah, I mean, I've been all over the world. But moving to another place, not having a base in the U.S. and moving to another country was a little bit daunting. And I know it was for my parents as well. So I hope that through these series of videos that I'm going to be doing, that you'll be able to kind of feel a little bit more confident about the idea. Maybe think of some things that didn't cross your mind before you started watching my videos. And if this does help you, please like it. Please share it with other people that may be kind of in the same phase of their life, if they're kind of over the whole noise that's going on in the U.S. right now. To be an expat doesn't mean you don't love your country. I mean, I love my country. I served my country for many years. Now, my allegiance doesn't mean that I hate America. I love America. I'm apolitical. I'm not going to argue with somebody about who's sitting in an office at this point in my life. I don't care. What I want is happiness. I want calm. I want my wife to be, and I just have a nice place to relax and to live our best life, and that's what we're doing. So, looking forward to the future. Probably the next ones I'm going to be talking about some, benefits or how to use your health benefits down here, and I'll have some links for that as well. Put some ideas of things you'd like to hear about in the comments, and I will try to get into them. All right, thank you for watching, and please subscribe.